A week went by, everything seemed to be normal. I think Lou even made a few friends. Everything was normal and nothing happened. Then Lou came up to me one day and told me about Jeff. Excuse me, is your name Jane, right? I turned around and looked. It was Lou. Yes, you're Lou, right? Jeff's brother? Yeah. He looked a little uncomfortable. Then again, so was I. Look at my parents wanted me to tell you that Jeff is getting bandages removed in a few days, so expect a phone call inviting you to dinner soon. Okay, well, thank you, I said. He was about to turn when I said, hey, listen, what you did for Jeff, that was really respectable. Thanks, I heard you try to help my brother Lou with their fire extinguisher. That was cool. Yeah, well, thanks. See you around, I guess. Yeah, see you. I was watching him walk away when I heard a little voice beside me saying, cheating on your boyfriend, are you? I turned around in surprise. It was Marcy. And with his own brother, nevertheless. She faked gas. Shut up, I yelled. Then I turned my head to make sure Lou didn't hear me. He didn't. Let's just get to class, I grumbled. 2 days passed until the phone rang. My mom answered it. A few minutes later, she got off and told me this. Jeff is going out for the hospital today. Jane, I looked up at her and said, that's great. It looks like we'll be having free dinner in a few days, she chuckled. A few hours passed and I heard a car pull into the driveway across the street. I looked out the window and I saw Jeff's car in front of his house. Jeff's home, I thought. I decided to watch out of curiosity to see what he looked like. He would look like. Dear God, how wrong I was. His dad got out, then his mom, then Lou. But what I expected Jeff to look like couldn't be farthest from what I saw. He had long black hair down to his shoulders, white leathery skin, and that smile. That smile was the same smile I saw when he was in class after he beat up Randy, Kenneth, and Troy. But Jeff looked right at me, into my eyes. I could feel the soulless, sarcastic eyes burn right into my soul. I still shake from the memory even now as I type this. He seemed to be looking at me for hours with that smile until he looked away. I saw him walk into the house with his parents. I didn't even breathe until that door finally closed behind him. The parents came into the living room and asked me what was wrong. My only reply was a long, loud scream. Then I fainted. When I finally woke up, it was dark outside. My parents weren't in the bedroom. The house was deathly quiet. I got up and went downstairs. I was wearing a long nightgown that I wasn't wearing before I fainted. I went downstairs to the kitchen. The lights were on, which was unusual. My parents always told me to turn off the lights in the room when I left. There was a note on the table. I picked it up. Curled on the paper was this. Aren't you coming to dinner? Your friends are here too. I began to shake violently. I dropped the paper. I went to the living room window and looked out. The lights were on in Jeff's room at Jeff's house. I knew I had to go there, but I was terrified in my mind. I shook my head and looked back again. I saw Jeff leaning on the window in his house, staring at me with a knife in his hand and tapping against the window. Tap, tap, tap. He was smiling. Tap, tap, tap. I started stepping back from the window and never taking my eyes off him. Then I turned and ran away from the window into the kitchen. When I peeked out of the kitchen to look out the window, I saw was a smear of red on the window. I turned around and looked in the kitchen. Everything seemed to be in its place, even the knives. I grabbed one of them and held it tight. Then I found the phone and tried to dial 911, but the phone line was disconnected. I had no idea where Dad's cell phone was, or if it was even fixed. I didn't want to go upstairs to find it. I didn't want to get stabbed in the back while I was looking for it. And if I went to ask one of the neighbors for help, Jeff would kill or hurt whoever he had captured. So there was only one choice to go, fight Jeff alone. I clutched the knife tighter and went to the front door and put on my shoes and went outside. My hand lingered on the doorknob as I stepped outside, but I knew what had to do. I let go of the doorknob and marched across the street to Jeff's house. As I got closer to the front door of his house, I began to slow down. My knees began to shake, my palms began to sweat, and I started to breathe faster and shallower. Before I knew it, I was standing completely still in front of the doorsteps, panting like a dog. I managed to grab the doorknob, squeeze my eyes shut, and jerked it open. I stood there in the doorway with the knife in my right hand and the doorknob in my left too, terrified to open my eyes until I heard a voice. "Looks like you made it. I'm glad you did, friend." I opened my eyes and screamed. His eyes were large and unblinkable. His eyes were red. He had carved a smile into his face. His clothes were covered in blood. Then I passed out. When I woke up, I was at a dinner room table. My knife was gone, and when I looked up, I saw people sitting at the table. It was my parents, Jeff's parents, his brother Lou, and my friends. They were all dead, with smiles carved into their faces, with huge red ripples in their chests. The smell was unbearable, indescribable. Unlike anything I ever smelled before, it was the smell of death. I tried to scream, but I had a gag in my mouth, and I was tied to a chair, and I looked around at the room in disbelief. Tears were welling up in my eyes from the sight and the smell of the bodies. Luke was finally awake. I turned and looked beside me. Jeff was there. I tried to scream, but the gag was in my way. Suddenly, he was beside me with a knife against my throat. "Shh, hush, hush, hush. It's not polite to scream at friends." He began sliding the blade across my face, constantly tracing invisible lines from the corners of my mouth up to my cheeks in a large, grinning smile. I shivered as he did this. When I turned away from him, he grabbed the back of my head and forced me to look at the scene at the table. Now, don't be rude. You're insulting everyone by looking at their pretty faces." I looked back at the table, looking at everyone with their faces carved into smiles and some of their chests still bleeding fresh blood. Hot tears began running down my face, and I began to sob. What's wrong?" Jeff heard. "Are you upset that you don't look beautiful like them?" I looked at him trying to understand what he said, but he looked away when I saw his face again. I looked back to the table. "Don't worry, I'll make you look beautiful too." "What do you say?" Then he slid the knife under the gag and cut it off. I spat out the gag and looked at him straight in the eyes, trying to hold his gaze. He tilted his head to the side as he looked back at me. Then I shut my eyes and looked away from him. Then I murmured darkly, "Go yourself." Then I turned to look at him again. "You joker reject." He just laughed in my face. I preferred it when he just smiled. "You're even funnier than I thought." He came closer to me, and I looked away again, feeling his breath against my skin. Friends do friends favors, right? I'm going to do a favor for you. I felt him let go of the back of my head. When I looked back, he was out of the room. I looked back at the table once more, taking in all the fresh tears starting to come down my face. Again, I remember my family and friends who were alive only a few hours ago. I was still crying when Jeff came back. "Don't cry," he said. "It'll be all over soon." I looked down at him, and he was holding a jug of bleach and a can of gas. My eyes widened, and I looked back at him. "I didn't have any alcohol, so this will have to do." Then he began to douse me in bleach and gasoline. We had better hurry. Jane already called the fireman." Then he held up a single match, lit it, then threw it at me. The flames erupted as soon as the match came into contact with me. I screamed as loud as possible. The pain was unbearable. I could feel the flesh melting off my body, the heat invading every pore in my body, blood evaporating in its veins, and my bones becoming tattered and brittle. Before I blacked out, I heard Jess laughing. "See you later, my friend. I hope you become as beautiful as I am." Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was sitting in a hospital bed, bandaged from head to toe. Everything was spinning, and it hurt to blink and breathe. I looked around and I saw an empty room. I groaned loudly because my mouth was bandaged. Everything hurt. A nurse came in a few minutes ago. Jane, can you hear me? I looked towards her. The room was started to spin even more. Jane, I'm your nurse, Jackie. I don't know how to say this, but your family died in a fire. I'm sorry. Tears started falling down my face again. I sobbed. No, honey, don't cry. You won't be able to breathe if you do. I couldn't stop. Jane, I'm going to have to give you something to help you calm down, alright? I felt something run into my bloodstream. Then I fell asleep. Again. When I woke up again, I couldn't move more, and my body wasn't as bandaged as it was when I first woke up. I looked around and I saw my room had flowers in it. Some were fresh, some were dying. I tried to get up, but the nurse came in and put me back down. Easy, Jane. You've been asleep for a while. Try to take it easy. I tried to speak. My voice came out roughly and sandpapery. How about how long? How long was I asleep? Almost 2 weeks. You were put in a medical endurance coma in order for your body to heal. I'm the same nurse who you saw first time you woke up. Give me a mirror. I said, Jane, I don't think that's what. Give me a mirror. I felt the handle of the mirror and slip into my hands. When I looked into the mirror, I dropped onto the floor. Shuddering, the mirror didn't compare to the shattering of my realization. My skin was leathery and brown. I didn't have a single hair on my head, and the skin around me, my eyes were saggy. I looked almost as bad as Jeff. Everything came flooding back to me as I began to cry harder than I ever had before. The nurse was hugging me, but it didn't help much. At the height of my sobbing, I was surprised that nobody else came to check on me. By the time I was done, I could barely speak. Someone came into the doorway. Excuse me, I have a delivery for Miss Hawkins. I'll take those. Jackie stood up and went to the doorway. I didn't want the delivery guy to look at me, so I stared at the wall in front of me. Someone certainly cares about you, Jane. It looks like the same person who sends you all these flowers that got you a package too. I looked around at her. She was holding a pink paper package tied with a brown string. I reached out and took it from her. Then a second, I took the package from her, and I knew something was wrong. Excuse me, but can I have something to eat? I asked sweetly as possible. Of course, I'll get you some food right away. Jackie smiled back, then left the room. My hands shook as I grabbed the strings and pulled it. The paper lightly bounced up, and I saw something that turned. My blood went to ice. It was a white mask with black around the eyes and a black venomous smile. It also had black lace covering the eyes holes of the mask. Even though someone couldn't see my eyes, I could see them. There was a long black dress with a turtleneck, black gloves, and black wig with beautiful curls. Along with these things, there was a bouquet of black roses and a sharp kitchen knife. Attached to the mask, there was a note. Jane, I'm sorry, I messed up trying to make you beautiful. So I gave you a mask that will let you seem beautiful until you get better. Also, you forgot your knife. I thought you would want it back. Jeff. By the time Nurse Jackie came, the present was hidden under my bed. I told her all there was the flowers. She seemed to be disgusted by them, so she threw them out. I thanked her for that. That night, when everyone was either asleep or gone home, I snuck out. The only thing I had to wear was that dress, so I put it on and I found a pair of shoes outside the hallway, forgotten by some careless nurse. I wore the wig to look less unsuspicious. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. When I finally stopped walking, it was in front of the cemetery. When I went inside, I found 2 tombstones, Isabel Cartoon and Gregory Cartoon. I sat down in front of their tombstones and cried once more. When I finally sat up, the sun began to rise. So there was a new chapter in my life. I took the mask and put it on. Then picked up the knife and held it as tightly as I did before. Then I turned around and looked at the rising sun. On that day, I swore revenge against Jeff the Killer and donned my new name, Jane Everlasting, for what I want. The only thing to be more everlasting for Jeff than his madness to be his death. Ever since that day, I have been trying to find Jeff and kill him, hunting him like the animal he is. I will find you, Jeff, and I will kill you. For the photo that has been popping up of me saying, don't go to sleep or you won't wake up, that pretty much explains what I want to do with Jeff's victims. Prevent them from becoming victims in the first place. Whoever says that I kill them so they don't get killed by Jeff is gross overstatement. So this is my story. Whatever you accept it as fact is not up for me to decide. Now, if you excuse me, the sun is going down and the hunt is beginning once more.